Hello students, welcome to the Hindu News Analysis by Baji IAS Academy. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you will get all important updates regarding our classes. Okay, so these are the list of very important and relevant news articles for today's discussion. The first important news article is Salvaging the Idea and Reality of Manipur. We all know there has been violence in Manipur over the issue of reservation to Maitis or giving scheduled tribe status to Maiti community in the state of Manipur. Okay, in the state of Manipur, and this has been resulted in a violence or ethnic conflict between the Kukis and Nagas on the one side and the Maitis on the other side. The next important news article is a multi-pronged counter is warranted to tackle the European Union's carbon tax plans. See, we all know, we already discussed that the carbon border adjustment mechanism, which has been introduced by the European Union to counter non-European Union products which are not carbon emission compliant. Okay, however, India is a developing country and India is also exporting iron, steel, aluminum products to European Union. If European Union started implementing the carbon border adjustment mechanism or carbon tax, then that will significantly impact India's exports to European Union. In this aspect, India has been looking for alternatives, okay, so that the trade with the European Union will not impact. And the next very important news article is securing the migrant vote. Okay, so recently the Election Commission of India has mooted the idea of introducing the remote voting mission. Okay, we know the electronic voting mission, which has been introduced by the Election Commission of India to make sure the electoral process or the voting is more transparent and accountable. In the same way, the Election Commission of India has also been planning to introduce remote voting machine. The remote voting machine would enable the migrant voters to vote. Okay, so the next important article is Arab trains to carry Indian goods to Israeli port. Okay, there was an Israeli port, Haifa port. Okay, so the name of the port is Haifa port, and this port is on the coast of Mediterranean Sea. Okay, this is on the coast of Mediterranean Sea. Okay, now Indian goods will be transported to the Israeli coast or Haifa port through Arabian trains or the you know Arab trains. Okay, this is a very significant move because Israel and Arab countries or Gulf countries generally maintain tense relationship. However, India is acting as a link between these two countries. Okay, so this will increase India's footprint or India's influence in the Middle Eastern region. The next very important news article is Assam plans to ban polygamy. A recent crackdown on child marriages was taken place in Assam. Okay, so in this context, Assam government has also decided to crack down on the polygamy. Polygamy is one single person marrying multiple times. Okay, without a divorce or without going through the legal process, marrying multiple number of spouses. Okay, this is polygamy, and Assam government has also planning to ban polygamy. So these are the list of very important news articles, and they are relevant for both prelims and mains exams. Okay, this is the first very important news article. This is with respect to the Manipur conflict or the Manipur violence, and what are the factors that have been led to the violence in the state of Manipur. We will try and understand. So along with those factors, we will try and understand how the violence in the Manipur can come to an end, and what are the steps need to be taken, how a state building should take place after the or post conflict. Okay, so in this context, please uh, try and understand the geographical location of the state of Manipur. Now Manipur has been sharing its border with Nagaland in the north, Assam in the west, Mizoram in the south, and Myanmar in the east. Okay, this is Myanmar in the east. So please understand the geographical location and the states which are sharing borders with the state of Manipur. The capital of Manipur is Imphal. Okay. Now before actually discussing this article, we should try and understand what are the major factors and that led to the conflict in the state of Manipur. Okay. See, recently the Manipur, the High Court has recommended the state government. Okay, High Court has recommended the state government to provide or to consider the issue of providing reservation to Maitis or include Maitis in the ST category list. Okay, however, Maitis live in the plain areas in the state of Manipur. Along with Maitis, there are other tribal communities. They are Nagas and Kukis. Okay, Nagas and Kukis. However, they are already categorized or recognized as a scheduled tribe population and they live in hill areas. Okay, these populations live in hill areas. However, after the judgment of the High Court, the state government has been considering giving scheduled tribe status to the Maitis, and this has led to the violent protests in the state of Manipur, and that also led to a conflict like situation. Okay, the tribal groups have been opposing the demand of the Maiti community. Who are the tribal groups? Tribal groups include Nagas and Kukis, and both Nagas and Kukis have been opposing the demand of the Maiti community that ST status, the scheduled tribe status, should be given for the Maitis, and this demand of Maitis is opposed by Nagas and Kukis. However, a recent protest and violence were primarily triggered by the major reason for the protest and violence is the reservation, a reservation demand for Maitis, and that is opposed by Nagas and Kukis. However, please understand the Manipur High Court order on 27th March, and the Manipur High Court on 27th March recommended or directed the Manipur state government to submit recommendations. Okay, please submit. It asked the state government to submit recommendations to union government, okay, for the inclusion of Maiti community in the scheduled tribe list, for the inclusion of Maiti community in the scheduled tribe list. Okay, so the court has issued an order after several petitions. Okay, several petitions have been filed by the Maiti community people, and the state government or the High Court has issued an order after several Maiti community people filing several petitions for the scheduled tribe status for Maitis. Okay, however, the High Court, while delivering its judgment, also criticized the state government because the state government has been dragging the issue for so many years. Okay, since it has been decading, it has been dragging the issue for several years. The High Court has been criticized. However, please understand in May 2013, the Union Ministry of Tribal Affairs asked the state government to submit formal recommendation. Okay, so Union Ministry of Tribal Affairs has already asked the state government to submit the formal recommendation, and that includes the empirical evidence on the socio-economic status of the Maiti community. Okay, socio-economic status of Maiti community, and the empirical evidence includes the latest socio-economic survey of the Maitis and ethnographic report, and so this empirical data includes these two, latest socio-economic survey and ethnographic report. However, the state government of Manipur has failed to provide such an empirical data to the union government. So therefore, the issue has been dragged by the government, the state government of Manipur for several years. Okay, now we should understand the conflict between Maitis and Kukis, or a disagreement between Maitis and Kukis. So the current conflict between Maitis, okay, Maitis and tribals. Maitis are now recognized as OBCs in the state of Manipur, and Kukis and Nagas are currently recognized as scheduled tribes. The current conflict between Maitis and tribals is the extension of hills versus plains conflict. Please remember, earlier also we have discussed that Maitis live in plain areas and tribals, that is Nagas and Kukis, they live in hill areas. Okay, this conflict is further extension of hills and plain areas, and conflict that has been existing in all the states of northeastern India, whether it is with respect to Mizoram, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland. It is a major conflict in most of the northeastern states. Okay. However, please understand Meiteis are a majority community in the state of Manipur, and they represent around 53% of total population in the state of Manipur. Okay. However, uh, at least 40% of people constitute both Kukis and Nagas. Okay, they are tribals, and they are tribal communities, and they constitute around 40% of population. However, there are 34 recognized tribes in Manipur, and they are broadly classified into Naga tribes and Kuki or Jomi tribe. Okay, Naga tribes constitute 24% of total population, and Kuki or Jomi tribe constitute 16% of total population. Now, while Naga and Kuki tribes are included in the scheduled tribe list, most of the Meitei communities are not included in the scheduled tribe list. Currently, they are enjoying the OBC reservation status. Okay, the Meitei community has also been protesting or also filed several appeals before the High Court to recognize them as the scheduled tribe category. Okay, if Meiteis they are majority given the scheduled tribe category, then the already benefits are being enjoyed by Nagas and Kukis. Benefits are already enjoyed by Nagas and Kukis will be further marginalized or minimized, and this fear has led to the large scale protest or violence in the state of Manipur. However, in this context, what the author has been suggesting, the author has come up with a set of suggestions, a set of recommendations in order to build, the post violence state of Manipur. Please understand, we all know that the communal rights they have erupted in the state of Manipur, and these communal rights were taken place between Meiteis and Kuki Hamarjomi communities. Kuki Hamarjomi communities. So they are the already recognized as a scheduled tribe, and they are minority. They are minority group, and Meiteis are majority group with a representation of around 53 percentage. Okay, so this conflict or the communal rights have led to the unprecedented human displacement. Unprecedented human displacement is followed by the state government and the armed forces have been setting up relief camps in several places in the state of Manipur. Relief camps in the several places so in the state of Manipur. So, along with the human displacement, there was a tragic loss of lives across the state of Manipur, and that also followed by destruction of property. And this has shown no signs of closure. The conflict in in the state of Manipur has shown no signs of closure. However, the extensive and radical transformations of the geopolitical body of the Manipur caused riots. Okay, the author has been suggesting that the extensive and radical transformations of the geopolitical body of Manipur has caused these riots. Okay, so they likely to make the post-conflict state building difficult. Okay, the author has been suggesting that the post-conflict or the post-violent state building and transformation of state and society relations extremely difficult after this violent incidents. So why the other has been suggesting that there has been a radical and extensive transformation of geopolitical body in the state of Manipur, because the state government considering majority as a vote bank, majority as a vote bank. So when the state government has been considering the majority as an vote bank, there is a high likelihood that their demands will be met. Okay, their demands will be met very often at the very often uh, that will impact the rights of the minority people, that is Kukis and Nagas. This is what the author has been suggesting. Okay, the majority and the minority complex and the vote bank politics. Okay, so The political accountability should be fixed immediately. The author has also been suggesting that the political accountability in the state of Manipur should be immediately fixed, and the trust in the political system should be restored immediately. Okay, the trust and accountability are very important factors, and that could bring the state which is violent hit or ridden with violence to a peaceful state. Okay, they make the state more peaceful. Okay, so the other has been also suggesting that there should be a judicial committee, and the judicial committee should be appointed under the supervision of the Supreme Court of India. Okay, so this judicial committee will fix the accountability in the state of Manipur, and also restore the institutionalized ecosystem. Okay, so institutionalized ecosystem, and will also inquire about the existing institutionalized ecosystem of rights, and will make further steps or will take steps to not to replicate this in future. Okay, so according to the author, in the state of Manipur, there is already an institutionalized ecosystem of rights, and that led to a frequent rights. Okay, that led to frequent rights in the state of Manipur. So, therefore, the Supreme Court monitored committee will fix the accountability and will also make sure that such ecosystem, such institutionalized ecosystem of rights will not replicate in the future. Now we all know that there was a sixth schedule. Okay, there was a sixth schedule in the Indian Constitution. Okay, so this sixth schedule protect the states with tribal population. Okay, sixth schedule protect the states with the tribal population. Now please understand the accommodation of tribal rights and identities under the sixth schedule and more robust Article 371C. So please also remember Article 371C is with respect to the state of Manipur, is with respect to the state of Manipur. So okay, so both the sixth schedule and Article 371 are already guaranteed by the Constitution. Okay, already guaranteed by the Indian Constitution, so that they enjoy legitimacy, and the state legislative power does not extend in altering. Okay, does not extend extend to altering the already given benefits to the scheduled caste or to the scheduled tribes who are living in hill areas. Okay, so they are made inviolable by brute legislative majority. Okay, so they cannot be made inviolable by brute legislative majority. Okay, so however, as a goodwill gesture, the state government must withdraw the notification on reserved forests, protected forests, and wildlife sanctuaries. Recently, the state government of Manipur has issued a notification. Okay, it has issued a notification on reserved forests, protected areas, and wildlife sanctuaries, and this notification has significantly impacted the rights of tribals. Okay, the rights of tribals or people who are living in hill areas. To some extent, this is also led to the discontentment against the state government in the people or among the people who are living in hill areas. See, in our previous classes, we have discussed that Manipur is the state which has been taking several steps to prevent the drug trafficking or cultivation of drugs illegally. Okay, so as part of this, the state government of Manipur has issued several notifications on reserved forests, protected forests, and wildlife forests or wildlife sanctuaries, and that has been significantly reducing the rights or impacting the rights of the tribal people. Okay, significantly impacting the rights of tribal people. So the author has been suggesting that the state government should withdraw all its notifications, and the state government should also stop blanket targeting communities as foreigners, encroachers, and illegal immigrants. So when people who are living in hilly areas are recognized as foreigners, encroachers, and illegal immigrants, the benefits like the public distribution system, government schemes and benefits generally not extended to the people who are living in these areas. So therefore, the government should also refrain from targeting communities who are living in hill areas as foreigners, encroachers, and illegal immigrants. However, the future policy decisions of the state government, okay, so they must consistently follow the already established procedure of laws. Okay, so they should not be driven by the majority complex, they should not be driven by the minority majority complex, and they should also not driven by the vote bank politics. However, these policy considerations should be driven by established procedure of laws and that respect the rights of every individual. Okay, the rights of every individual who are living either in the plain areas or the hilly areas. Okay, the state building ahead, this is a violence hit state. So what steps need to be taken for the for building the state of Manipur? Institutional trust and legitimacy will be very important and very crucial, along with in the deeply divided society in the state of Manipur. Like a deeply divided society in the state of Manipur, institutional trust and legitimacy are very important. This is the first step that need to be taken for rebuilding the state after violence. Okay. However, the state should be free from the majority pressure, that is a mighty community pressure. Okay, the state should be free from the majority pressure, and it should also divide from demographic compulsions. It should also divide from demographic compulsion. And the future state building and accommodation of the rights of the people and identities of the people is in fact a challenging task. Okay, because there was a prevalence of sense of hate among the people and also mutual distrust. Okay, since there was a prevalence of sense of hate and a mutual distrust, it is difficult. Okay, it is difficult for building the state of Manipur and accommodation of distinctive rights and identities of the people. Okay, because the sense of hate and a mutual distrust run deep across all the communities in the state of Manipur. Okay, so however, going ahead or going forward, there should be a multi-stakeholder engagement. The state government should engage with the leaders of the different communities, whether it is a Mighty community, a Naga community, or cookies. Okay, so they should be engaged, and along with the state government and other all important stakeholders in the state of Manipur. Okay, so overall together this is called as a multi-stakeholder engagement, multi-stakeholder engagement. And this multi-stakeholder engagement is a very necessary to necessary to ensure that a mutually self-destructive nature of the violence. Okay, so when multiple stakeholders are involved, okay, multiple stakeholders are involved, and that will uh, build consensus. Okay, that will build consensus and will also gives us a more peaceful solution, a more peaceful solution, and it will also help us understand the mutually self-destructive nature of violence. Okay, so violence is in the not anyone's interest, whether it is Meitei's interest or Nagas or cookies. So violence is in no one's interest, so this will help to some extent prevent the violence in the state of Manipur. Okay, however, along with the above mentioned measures, there should be a serious and concerted inter-community reconciliation efforts. Okay, these efforts must be undertaken. Inter-community reconciliation efforts. Yes, different communities have disagreements. Okay, the Meiteis, uh, uh, the Kukis and Nagas, they are living in hill areas and they are not supporting providing ST status to Meiteis. So therefore, different communities should bring together and there should be an inter-community reconciliation. And this should be very serious and a concerted effort, so that it will help, all these measures will help in building the state going ahead. Okay, building the state going ahead. So this is all about the article on Manipur violence. The next important news article is with respect to the next important news article is with respect to the carbon is with respect to the green crosshairs. Okay, green crosshairs. Now, recently, the carbon border adjustment mechanism, this was actually a law passed by the European Union. See, for the exam point of view, this is very important. Which of the following blocks or which of the following groupings recently passed a comprehensive legislation on carbon adjustment, carbon border adjustment mechanism? That is actually the European Union. Okay, this is European Union. So in this context, we will try and understand what exactly the carbon border tax and how exactly it will work. Okay, so understand this was passed by the European Union. So we have no doubt about that. So first, how the carbon border tax will actually work. So these are European companies. Okay, European companies, of course, they complained with the climate standards which are provided in the state in the European Union. Okay, they are complained. So when the European companies are complained with the climate standards, and those products will enter into the European markets. Okay, without any hindrance, those products will enter into the European Union markets. However, there are several non-European Union markets also, or non-European Union companies also, particularly from the global south. Okay, particularly from global south. So what consists of global south? Global south consists of poor, developing, underdeveloped countries of Africa, South Asia, and Latin America. Okay, Latin America and South Asia. So all these countries constitute of the global south. Okay, so imagine companies from the global south. So they are generally lack the technology. Okay, these countries lack the technology and also lack the necessary financial support from the developed countries. Okay, so they still do not adopt the advanced climate technologies. Okay, the advanced climate technologies, and they still dependent on fossil fuels. Okay, so when the company is significantly dependent on fossil fuels and they do not follow the European Union climate standards. They do not follow the European Union climate standards. If they follow the European Union climate standards, then non-European Union companies, non-European Union companies products can also easily access European markets. Okay, for example, there are few countries like USA, few developed countries like USA, Japan, South Korea, South Korea. Okay, so these countries products can easily access the European markets because they have the necessary technology and the financial support also from the government. Okay, so they can easily shift their production patterns from fossil fuel based to more climate friendly means. So, however, there are several poor, underdeveloped, and developing countries, and they face difficulty in complying with the European climate standards. So, if they do not meet the European Union climate standards, they have to pay carbon border tax. Okay, these companies have to pay the carbon border tax. Now, carbon border tax is equivalent to carbon content into carbon price. Okay, so this includes the total payable carbon tax. However, this article has been saying that India has been importing crucial products like iron, aluminium, steel. Okay, iron, aluminium, steel to European Union. If European imposes the carbon tax on Indian products, carbon tax on Indian products, that significantly impact the Indian companies which have been exporting to the European Union. The Indian companies exporting to the European companies and make Indian products less competitive. Indian products less competitive. So in this context, we will try and understand this article. So we understood what is a carbon border tax, which has been introduced by the European Union. Okay. Now understand the European Union proposes the carbon border tax. Okay. The European Union proposes to introduce framework of levying the carbon tax. Okay. Levying carbon tax. This is otherwise called as carbon border adjustment mechanism. Carbon border adjustment mechanism. For example, European Union countries or European Union companies meet the climate standards which are prescribed by the European Union countries. And countries or companies which belong to countries which do not meet the climate standards have to pay higher duties while exporting their products to European Union markets. Okay. Now, European Union has proposed levying carbon tax on imports of products. Okay, so those products that rely on non-green or suboptimally processes. Okay, suboptimally sustainable processes. That is primarily products they are produced using fossil fuels, and products which have been contributing to higher emissions into the atmosphere. So European Union will impose taxes on non-green or suboptimally sustainable processes. Okay, where the carbon emissions are deemed to have not been adequately priced. In those non-European Union countries, the carbon emissions of these companies are not adequately priced. If they are not adequately priced, then the European Union will impose necessary levies on such imports. Okay. Now, the carbon border adjustment mechanism will begin with an import monitoring mechanism. So there will be a proper import monitoring mechanism in Europe. Okay, so this import monitoring mechanism will ensure that the products which are imported into the European Union markets are compliant with the European Union climate standards. And European Union is determined to implement the carbon border adjustment mechanism from January 2026. Okay, however, European Union has been arguing that the carbon border adjustment mechanism will ensure its climate objectives. There are set of climate objectives, and several countries have also been focusing on achieving the net zero emissions. Okay, they are also focusing on achieving the net zero emissions. So in this backdrop, European Union has been saying that this uh, carbon tax mechanism will help meet its climate objectives and are not undermined by carbon intensive imports. If intensive imports are imported from other countries, then that will undermine the climate objectives of European Union, and that is actually the reason or the rationale given by the European Union. And this will further spur the cleaner production in the rest of the world. This is what the European Union has been saying. However, the measures impact on India. So what impact this will have on India? So this will pose a significant threat to India's biggest exports. Okay, for example, iron ore, steel, and carbon, with carbon levies estimated to be around 19.8 to 52.7 percentage. In fact, this is a huge levy on such products. Okay, so imposing around 20 percentage or 50 percentage of the product cost will make Indian imports much costlier in the European Union markets. So therefore, Indian products will not be more competitive. Indian product will not be more competitive, and this significantly impacts India's capacity to export its products to European Union bloc. Okay, so however, the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal uh, uh, has held that it was too early to gauge the taxes impact on Indian products or Indian exports. It is in fact too early to decide what impact the carbon tax mechanism of European Union will have on Indian exports, and there is no such operational clarity on this. Okay, so how the exports will be taxed by the European Union. There is no such clarity has emerged as of now. However, Indian industry is more assertive and termed for tackling this risk. Okay, so Indian industry has been terming to tackle this risk, and Indian industry, along with the government, has been exploring several options. Okay, several options to overcome this challenge. However, please understand about at least one third of India's iron, steel, and aluminum exports are shipped to the European Union member countries. So, engineering products are the largest export from India to European Union, and it is a major growth driver. It is a major growth driver. However, the large players across the sectors are now turning to greener technologies. In India also, these large players have been turning towards the greener technologies. However, this is not a sudden shift, or this is not a sudden transformation. This transition requires time. Okay, this transition needs time, along with the smaller businesses and also the large players have been making transition towards the greener technologies, and this needs time, or this takes time to move away from the legacy carbon heavy technologies. Example is blast furnaces for steel making. Okay, this is a one such example of legacy carbon heavy technology, and they lead to huge emissions into the atmosphere. They lead to the huge emissions into the atmosphere. However, the European Union believes that the tax is compatible with the WTO norms. Okay, tax is compatible with the WTO norms and also compatible with United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. However, India has been planning or looking to challenge this idea. India has been planning to challenge this idea that the tax regime is compatible with the World Trade Organization norms. Okay, so it also says it is compatible with the United Nations framework, climate change framework. Okay, so the common but differentiated responsibilities for developing in developed countries. Okay, however, there is a common but differentiated responsibilities for developed and developing countries. So, since there is a common but differentiated responsibility, the developing countries should be given flexibility. Okay, developing countries should be given flexibility while framing such policies in European Union. Okay, however, there is no enforcement mechanism for the same. Okay, both with respect to the World Trade Organization and with respect to the common but differentiated responsibilities under UN's climate change framework. Okay, so even if these arguments are upheld, that these two avenues lack enforcement. Okay, if we assume that these two are in favor of India, but they lack the enforcement options. So India is also mulling over the idea of retaliatory tariffs on European Union products. For example, on Indian products, European Union imposing higher taxes on under the carbon border adjustment mechanism. Okay, so in the same way, India can also impose retaliatory tariffs on products products imported from European Union, and this will significantly impact the European Union economies also. However, India is traditionally known as the voice of the global south. Okay, India is traditionally known as the voice of the global south. So therefore, this the impact of introducing the carbon border adjustment mechanism is not just on India. Okay, this will not just on India, but this will impact several other poor and developing countries, especially the global south. So therefore, India is generally known as the voice of the global south, and India should play a key role. India should play an active role extensively using this year current India's G20 presidency to act proactively on carbon border adjustment mechanism of European Union. And this championing need not revolve around its own concerns, but far worse implications. This will have a far worse implications on the poor and underdeveloped countries of the global south, because many of these countries do not lack technologies and they still dependent on mineral resources than India does. Okay, they're significantly dependent on fossil fuels such as petroleum, diesel, natural gas, etc. They more than India does. Okay, this will have a significant implications, and this will also provide India another opportunity to voice the concerns of the global south at international platforms. The next important news article is securing the migrant vote. So we have discussed recently the Election Commission of India introduced the remote voting machine. Remote voting machine, planning to introduce the remote voting machine. Now remote voting machine will enable the migrant workers to cast their votes without traveling to their own state or to their own constituencies. Imagine a person or an individual who is Bihar, migrated from Bihar to Karnataka. Okay, migrated from Bihar to Karnataka. Now, if elections are being held, Karnataka. So, if elections are being held in the state of Bihar, the remote voting machine will enable a migrant individual from Karnataka to cast his vote through RVM in Bihar elections. So, in this respect, we will try and understand what exactly the remote voting machine, how this will help the migrant workers. Okay, there was a study conducted by the Lokniti. Okay, study conducted by Lokniti Center for Developing Societies. Center for Developing Societies. So, this survey has revealed several factors regarding the voting choices of the migrant workers. We will try and understand this aspect as well. Now, Election Commission of India's proposal of introducing the remote voting machine. Okay, this was a proposal by the Election Commission of India to introduce the remote voting machine, and that will seeks to extend the facilities to migrant workers to find who actually find it difficult to travel to their native place while elections. Okay, so the voting facilities of the migrant workers, the vote should can be cast through the remote voting machine by the migrant workers in case of an elections in his native constituency or in his native state. However, some political parties have objected to the remote voting machines. They have objected to the remote voting machines. So, why they are objected to the remote voting machines is because the Election Commission has not yet cleared all the fears or all the transparency related issues with respect to the electronic voting machines. Oh, there was some apprehensions. Okay, there were some apprehensions among the opposition parties that the EVMs are not safe. They are very often hacked to benefit. They are very often hacked to benefit the ruling party. Okay, benefit the ruling party. So therefore, several opposition parties have been opposing to the remote voting machines, which the Election Commission of India is planning to introduce. However, when Lokniti, a center for developing societies, conducted survey with respect to the remote voting machine, a little awareness still, despite having a very little awareness about the remote voting machines of the Election Commission of India, 80% of the people, 80% of the migrant workers supported this proposal from the migrated proposal from the Election Commission of India for migrant workers, despite having a very little awareness about the remote voting machines. Okay, so the migrant workers were happy that the remote voting machines will enable them to vote in their migrate in the state where they are living. Okay, even though they are not in their native state, they have migrated because of several reasons. One such reason is lower wages. Okay, one such reason is lower wages for the migrant workers, and the second is lack of opportunities, lack of opportunities or employment opportunities, and this could be categorized as push factors of migration. Okay, this could be categorized as push factors of migration. So therefore, they have been migrated to other states and RVMs will enable them to vote. Okay, so 80% of them responded positively for remote voting machines. However, less than 10% expressed apprehensions about the RVM machine. Less than 10% have expressed the apprehensions about the remote voting machines. their apprehension is with respect to the mode of voting in the remote voting machines. However, many of them have also voiced concerns about the system's accuracy. Like EVM, the 10 percentage of people have also voiced concerns with respect to the mode of voting and also the accuracy of the remote voting machine. However, these statements have shown that the acknowledgement being provided to the remote voting machine of the Election Commission of India. Okay, this is a larger acknowledgement of the Election Commission of India's move. Okay. However, the problem is there is lack of dialogue around the procedure and the viability of the remote voting machines. Okay. Still, there is a lack of a clear procedure and also the viability of remote voting machines. The study shows that the remote voting machines initiative is much needed one for many. Okay. So the study which was conducted by Lokniti, it shows that the RVM remote voting machine initiative is much more needed for many migrant workers, but it also requires an additional push. How additional push? There is a widespread awareness about the migrant workers, and if there are any fears regarding the system's accuracy or mode of voting, those fears should also be elevated, and it should be based on the consensus among different political parties, because political parties have also shown apprehension. Some political parties shown apprehensions with respect to the remote voting machines. Okay, so therefore it will be a good alternative for lakhs of migrant workers, and it needs more thought and greater transparency, alleviating the fears of all the stakeholders, whether the people or the political parties. And it should also issue the technological, it should also clear any technological issues with respect to the remote voting machines. And the next article is with respect to child marriages in the state of Assam. Okay, child marriages in the state of Assam. Okay, so we all know that recently there was a crackdown on child marriages. Crackdown on child marriages in the state of Assam. In the state of Assam. Okay, so in this context, we will try and understand this article, and then we will discuss about the major reasons of child marriage and the consequences of the child marriages. The government of Assam has now set up a panel. Okay, government of Assam has now set up a panel to handling part of the uniform civil code. Uniform civil code, please remember, uniform civil code is given in article 44 of the directive principles of state policy. Directive principles of state policy. So therefore Assam government has set up a panel to decide on the part of the uniform civil code after crackdown on child marriages and polygamy. So what is a polygamy? More than one marriage is considered as a polygamy. In India, the several personal laws were not several personal laws were treated by the respective communities. Okay, so therefore Indian constitution has, you know, uh, given the responsibility to the state to implement the uniform civil code. Implement the uniform civil code. However, the Goa is also implementing the uniform civil code. Goa also implementing, already implementing the uniform civil code. So therefore there was a judgment by the Supreme Court also to other states to emulate the model of uniform civil code that is actually implemented by the Goa, the state of Goa. Okay, so this decision to form a panel to handle the part of the uniform civil code uh, was taken by the Assam government, and Assam government has constituted an expert committee. Okay, the expert committee will examine whether the government has the authority to ban polygamy in the state. Okay, the expert committee has constituted by the government of Assam, and the expert committee will examine whether the state government has the power to ban polygamy in the state. The committee has also been tasked with scrutinizing provisions of the Muslim Personal Law Shariat Act 1937. Okay, it is also tasked with scrutinizing various provisions in the Muslim Personal Law Shariat Act of 1937. So it will also scrutinize Article 27 of the Indian Constitution. Article 27 is with reference to or with respect to right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion. Okay, so the both uh, right to freedom of religion under Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, and also Muslim Personal Law Shariat Act 1937 uh, 1937 is examined in relation to the directive principles of state policy, because it is the responsibility of the government to implement the uniform civil code, since child marriages have a huge repercussions on the future of a girl child and on the society. The state government has been taking such a proactive measures to ban polygamy and also child marriages. However, uh, data on the prevalence of polygamy in the state, uh, there was no data on the prevalence of polygamy in the state. Many cases were detected during the crackdown on child marriages. So many cases of polygamy were also detected in recent crackdown on the child marriages. So around 4404 cases have been registered, and 3,397 people were arrested as part of the recent crackdown on child marriages as part of the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. Okay, so please remember the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 and also Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. 2012. So please remember these two legislation. They are very important and landmark legislations in protecting the child rights. Okay, so uh, this marks the completion. So actually, this crackdown on child marriages has done by the government of Assam as part of the Prevention of Child Marriages Act 2006 and also Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. So in this context, we will try and understand the consequences of the child marriage. Right. So child marriage, in fact, a global problem. Okay, it is a global problem and it has been very often ignored by several countries. So what does child marriage mean for a girl child? Okay, so this reinforces poverty, and this will also leads to dropout of schools of a girl child, and further reduces her opportunities, or prevent her to take up opportunities, and this will also leads to inequality of the girl child, and this will also have a significant bearing on the health of the girl child, and there is a chances of infection of HIV and AIDS and violence, especially the domestic violence on children or girl child who marry early. Okay, so these are all the negative impacts or the negative consequences on a girl child if she married early. Okay, so how can we prevent girl child marriages? First, understand the reasons for child marriage in society, higher prevalence of child marriage in society. There are several social norms and social pressures also. For example, the institution of patriarchy, and the perception in the society that girl child is considered as a burden. Girl child is generally considered as a burden on the family. So these social norms and pressures will further, increasing the intensity of child marriages. And there is also a general fear of insecurity among the family and the, and the parents, and relaxation of laws. The laws not implemented properly, and when laws are not implemented properly, the deterrence will not be, or may no longer, the deterrence no longer deter the people. Okay, the deterrence or the provisions which mandate the punishment will no longer deter the people. And the family honor, it is also about the family honor, because the society has been considering early marriage of a girl child. It has a social acceptance, but if a girl child is married late, then the society is also not accepting that. The society is considering it as a, a mistake by the family if girl child is not married early. And also the preference among the people about the younger brides, and also lack of physical and mental maturity for marriage. So these are all the factors, and they have been uh, the leading factors of child marriages. Okay, how can we prevent child marriages? Child marriages can be prevented by empowering girls, boys, parents, and primary duty bearers. How can we do that? Education and the community awareness or community campaigns by ashas, anganwadis, ANMs, that will also give a good result. So apart from that, government programs like Sukanya Samruddhi Yojana. So these programs will empower the girl child. Will these programs will empower the girl child and delay their marriages. And mobilization of families, communities, local self-government institutions. The role of panchayats, urban local bodies should be rightly recognized, and mobilization of entire civil society is very important for the prevention of child marriages. Promoting girls education is very very important. For example, the government's program of Beti Padhao program should be implemented in all the states in letter and spirit, and that will help promote girls' education. And state governments should also incentivize the girls' education. Should also incentivize girls' education so that the learning outcomes will further increase among children. So enhancement of economic situation of girls and their families. How can we do that? We can do that through self-helping groups, financial incentives, providing them financial incentives, and skilling of women, not just skilling of women, and also providing marketing support for the women entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship spirit. The government has already started programs like Startup India, Startup India, and Stand Up India with the objective of empowering women. So all these factors will help prevent or minimize the child marriages prevalent in Indian society. The government has also been thinking over idea of increasing marriage age of women from 18 years, at present 18 years, to 21 years because of evolving society. Okay, this should also be considered by the union government. Now, Arab train Arab trains to carry Indian goods to Israeli port. So Israeli port is Haifa port. So okay, this is Haifa port, and this is Mediterranean Sea. Okay, this is Mediterranean Sea. So please also go through all the areas. All the This is Tel Aviv. Okay, Tel Aviv, capital of Israel, and this is West Bank, and this is Gaza Strip. West Bank and Gaza Strip. These are the areas of Palestine. Okay, please remember the Haifa port and also the Tel Aviv, that is actually the capital of Israel. Now, recently, Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen visited India, New Delhi. Now, during his visit, he told that Arab train network, Arab train network will help take Indian goods to Israel. Okay, so Arab trains generally Israel and Arab countries. Okay, so they maintain tense relationship. However, Arab countries trains will help Indian goods transported to Israel, because uh, Israel is very close to most of the Arab countries, and in the same way, so it will further enhance the connectivity. Okay, so addressing India Israeli Business Forum organized by the Confederation of Indian Industry, Israeli Foreign Minister held that support for increasing number of Indian employers in Israel. Okay, so there is a support, there is an increasing demand, or the Israeli government itself support increasing number of employees in Israel. Okay, so India and Israel have not yet concluded the free trade agreement. However, please remember, India recently concluded a free trade agreement with the United Arab Emirates and also with Australia. Also with Australia. However, both Israel and India have been uh, in the stage of concluding a free trade agreement. If they conclude a free trade agreement, that will give an impetus to trade between India and Israel. Okay, so this is actually the news article. Okay, so he also says that the vision of Israel is that Israel, Gulf Arab countries, and India is the gate from east to the west. It is actually the gate from the east to west, and trade that will come from India will go to some Arab port, and from there by train it will reach Haifa port in Israel. From the Haifa port, Indian goods will reach to European markets. Okay, Indian goods will reach to European markets and rest of the Western world. Okay, so this is actually the importance of the Haifa port, and also India is linking between Gulf countries and also Arab countries and also Israel. So these are some of the countries with which India already signed a free trade agreement. These are bilateral trade agreements. India signed a free trade agreement with Sri Lanka, India, Japan, India, Korea, India, Malaysia, India, Nepal, India, Bhutan, Singapore, Afghanistan, Chile, and Thailand. India also signed a free trade agreement with the UAE and also with the Australia. UAE also with the Australia. So please pause this video and go through the free trade agreements India have signed with all these countries. Okay, so these are a very important and a relevant news article for today's discussion. Okay, thank you.